Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And that's right, welcome to fabulous New Vegas. A single glittering and glamorous flame in an otherwise dark and post-apocalyptic US of A, thrusting players in the middle of a brutal jockey for power between the bloated and bureaucratic New California Republic and the neo-Roman parody that is Caesar's Legion. Fallout New Vegas was released almost 8 years ago, but despite being as ancient as pre-war America, this game certainly has not lost its charm. And all these years later, many of the clever Easter eggs, references, and secrets Obsidian Entertainment built into this game still remain unknown or undiscovered to some. So today we will be diving right into 10 tiny details you may still have missed in Fallout New Vegas. Starting off, like other Bethesda-published Fallout games, New Vegas' introduction and ending sequences have an easily recognizable narrator, Ron Perlman, an already famous actor best known for his role in the Hellboy franchise. And the way he says "war never changes" is just downright seductive. But did you know that buried within New Vegas' files, he actually has his own character? You can only meet him if you spawn him in with console commands. Ron the narrator is an NPC with a custom model based off of Perlman's actual appearance, who wears Legionnaire armor. Unfortunately, this character has no dialogue, and will actually flee when attacked, but is set as essential. Given that Ron the narrator never makes an appearance in the game itself, it would seem the NPC was created just for giggles over at Obsidian. And to that I say, well done. Next on our list, Brahmin are the mutated descendants of pre-war cattle. Generations of overexposure to radiation has transformed them into what now can easily be mistaken as their own separate species. With 2 heads and, quite notably, a much less thick coat of fur, these beings don't look as cuddly as their ancestors. That said, their large size and passive nature has made them a staple part of the Wasteland diet, and even efficient pack animals. Well, in New Vegas, it would appear Obsidian humorously created a mechanic to torment these gentle giants. As should the player approach a Brahmin while crouched and press the interact button, you'll actually tip the poor animal over. Obviously an allusion to cow tipping in the real world, Brahmin tipping will simply cause the cow to fall and ragdoll for a brief period of time. Brahmin will not lose any health, nor become hostile after being tipped, so you're free to do this as much as you please. Unfortunately, despite being developed on the same engine, Fallout 3 does not offer Brahmin tipping as a feature, nor does Fallout 4. It's an innovation unique to New Vegas. So if you're looking to harass some irradiated cows, you'll have to pay another visit to the Mojave. For a third spot, to witness this one, the player will have to have the Wild Wasteland trait enabled. Wild Wasteland is one of the 10 base game traits the player can select, and it unlocks a variety of humorous encounters and game alterations that you otherwise can't get to see. We'll need it for a few more selections on our list. But if you have Wild Wasteland selected, New Vegas' endgame credits will be considerably modified to be a lot more wacky than normal. Many of the developers listed will have accompanying nicknames and sarcastic quotations. Even the player's character will be given acknowledgement. It's almost like New Vegas offers one last chuckle to end your game on. Coming in at number 4, Hidden Valley is a small collection of pre-war military bunkers, located east of Good Springs, now currently occupied by the remnants of the Brotherhood of Steel's Mojave chapter. The complex was originally established to house high-ranking United States Air Force personnel in times of crisis. But that didn't go well, as you could probably have guessed, and after the Brotherhood's defeat at Helios 1, this became their new home base. Well, along Hidden Valley's northern fence, should the courier jump on this rock I'm at right now and enter the third-person camera, you'll find a curious message. The poorly written words, "Steve was here," can be seen floating in the air from above. At first, it would seem like one of the developers wanted to leave their own little signature in this location. But if you look closely at some of the other bunkers in Hidden Valley, you'll notice that among the graffiti is that same phrase, "Steve was here," suggesting that perhaps the floating sentence was just a misplaced asset. Furthermore, no one named Steve is listed in the game's credits for having worked on level design. So it would seem this curious quotation is more the result of someone making a bit of a mistake when developing the area, rather than intentionally creating an Easter egg for us to find. No matter, Steve will certainly be remembered. Halfway through at number 5, this encounter also requires the Wild Wastelands perk. But southeast of Good Springs, along the road that leads out of the town, will be a fridge, seemingly just lying in the middle of nowhere. though inside it will be a human skeleton and a brown fedora. This is of course a hilarious nod to the 2008 movie Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where, in one highly criticized scene, Indiana Jones takes cover from a nuclear blast by simply hiding in a fridge. Now, in the film, this trick worked with stunning success, and Indy escaped without a bruise. But in the real world, such a tactic probably wouldn't be so successful, and it clearly wasn't for our friend in New Vegas either. 6th, Cottonwood Cove is the Legion's largest encampment west of the Colorado. It's being used by Caesar's forces as a sort of forward operating base into the Mojave. Well, on the side of one of the HQ building's outer walls, you can find a rather interesting piece of graffiti, assuming you have Wild Wasteland still enabled. It reads in red ink, Romanes eot domus. At first, one may easily mistake this as some sort of pro-legionnaire propaganda. After all, it is in Latin. But this is actually a reference by Bethesda to the 1979 film Monty Python's Life of Brian, which was set in ancient Roman-occupied Judea, where in one scene, Brian, the main character, attempts to write the phrase "Romans go home" on the side of a palace wall in Latin, protesting the Roman occupation, Romanes eot domus. However, he's actually using incorrect grammar, and was caught by a Roman guard. Afterward, the guard humorously forced him to correct his error and rewrite the sentence 100 times. Evidently, the same mistake was made here in Cottonwood Cove, but left uncaught, for better or worse. 7th on our list, Novak is a small settlement south of Helios 1. Originally an old pre-war rest stop along Highway 95, Novak was and remains most notable for the giant dinosaur statue, named Dickie, that watches over the area. When you first arrive, it will be under constant pressure from Legionnaire raids and a ghoul horde to the north. It's a pretty precarious situation. Ultimately, the courier's decisions will either guarantee the safety of the people of Novak or doom them to a terrible fate. Well, what's interesting is that this town's name actually seems to be based off of a misreading of the malfunctioning sign outside of Novak's motel, which is supposed to say no vacancies, but the ending part of vacancies has been eroded off. So now it just reads Novak, and evidently the natives just stuck with the name. Now, for some players, this may have come off as a bit more obvious to others, but 8 years of playing New Vegas and I literally just learned this fact while researching the video, so I'm including it. Next, Higgs Village was a large pre-war parody of suburbia, where executives of Big Mountain Research and Development Center resided. Big MT, as it was known, was a large defense contractor prior to when the bombs fell, and their complex is the primary setting of the Fallout New Vegas Old World Blues DLC. Well, if you have Wild Wastelands enabled while inside the Higgs Village compound, you'll encounter a miniature Deathclaw named Stripe, who will rush out of a doghouse outside of one of the home's backyards. But don't let his size fool you, because he has more health than an alpha Deathclaw. Expect quite the battle. Letting this foe catch you off guard can be a lethal mistake. Well, Stripe's inclusion is a reference to the classic 1984 comedy horror movie Gremlins, where the lead antagonist of the aggressive pack of gremlins is affectionately named Stripe. Thankfully, unlike Stripe in the movie, this tiny-sized Deathclaw doesn't have an army of followers. Hopefully. Getting close to the end here at number 9. All throughout the Wasteland, pre-war power lines and electric poles can still be found as ominous fossils of a once mighty and proud nation. Some of them will bear a small silver plaque with a serial number to identify them. And one of the potential serial numbers you might come across on these plaques reads TES Zero. This is a clear nod to the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, developed by Bethesda Game Studios and published by Bethesda Softworks. At the time of New Vegas' release, the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion was the most recent entry into the Elder Scrolls franchise. And apparently, some folks at Oblivion wanted to pay some homage to it. Either that, or this was just a really brilliant coincidence. So I'm gonna go with the former. And finally, last on our list, we have a truly terrifying Wild Wastelands encounter. Cerulean Robotics is an abandoned pre-war robotics factory that, quite frankly, doesn't offer much inside of it. The building can be found amongst the ruins of New Vegas's Freeside slums, and seems pretty insignificant. But should you, for whatever reason, decide to go inside of it, upon your exit, you'll be attacked by a group of elderly women in matching pink spring dresses. As they approach you, what can only be assumed to be their leader will say, "Let's get 'em, ladies," and they'll turn hostile. Furthermore, it's possible to overhear residents of Freeside passively talking about this gang, calling them mods muggers, and referring to them as ruthless, vicious, and horrifying. Now, aside from being just downright hilarious, this game of women is in fact another Monty Python reference, specifically to a skit about elderly ladies who were terrorizing London, and went by the name Hell's Grannies. And so it would seem in post-apocalyptic America, the conditions were right for such an organization to resurface. So, hats off to Hell's Grannies. But with that, we are going to wrap up 10 tiny details you may still have missed in Fallout New Vegas. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Which of the Easter eggs covered in this video did you find to be the most hilarious or intriguing? And what tiny details do you know of in Fallout New Vegas that this video didn't tackle? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for stopping by, and hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.